some kind of metric stat stuff, we can do that anytime. Catch up on that. But in terms of team updates, and this is something that's going to reach out soon anyway. But as you know, we had Ryan was our CTO, and he's in the process of transitioning out. And on that note, I'll be taking over tech, architecture, and things like that. And so I've been ramping up into that, and we have a pretty sweet build that will be coming out. In terms of timeline, anyway, I have a target internally now for Jan 20, and that's when we're going to start testing entirely new, actually, architecture and infrastructure. We've officially kind of branded and named now the flagship client, which I don't know if you recall, we've had several prototypes at this point and POCs and been doing testing. But the flagship is going to be called Nova, which is going to be the multimodal, multi-intent, right, flagship client. And that'll be backed by the platform I've architected and mostly complete with our new universal router, which since we are going with this astral, right, space theme, which I like and agree with, especially for the future, is called Stargate. The idea is that we'll be able to horizontally scale those as Stargate intent routers. If you're familiar, I'm sure you are at this point with all the intent stuff. So that's actually looking very good and pretty awesome. Carlos on our DeFi side has stepped up to completely lead DeFi engineering. On that note, we have actually a lot of great progress here. We have the entire Solana blockchain now. We have thrown in the EVM stack with Aave, Uniswap. Now we've thrown in Pendle and some others. We have included a couple in the base ecosystem now. We did actually throw in the Bitcoin chain recently, and we have Hyper EVM, which is Hyperliquid. So we're covering prediction markets, perps, lending and borrowing, obviously swaps and everything. And we actually have bridging and some cross-chain ops now that really couldn't any of this really be fully leveraged without this new concept of this universal router that I've architected. I started a couple months ago, and based off our learnings, was able to actually rapidly put this together. So that's very exciting. And we have our new automation engine, which will help basically automate everything, bring all the AIs and things like that together, use the intent router. And then we have a new wallet infrastructure. So great timing, actually, too, is we are able to leverage and put in Privy. So we're actually able now to do fully self-custodial. We did, by the way, get our contract audits and everything like that for the executable multi-sig on Solana primarily, if we want to still do that. But now, since we have Privy, we're able to do still self-custody quorum, manage organization wallets and administration, and do things like that, especially for the platform and services and all the business side and things like that. But this also gives us scope and policy and things like that. So along with the intent router, which is, it's just the execution, basically interface for transactions and everything on the network, we're able to put in actually scopes and policies and things like that right inside, right to the token headers. So we can do full end-to-end authorizations, self-custodial scopes. And I'm actually right now tonight in the process of building our pre-play engine. So we get to throw all that into policy and validation and do all the things like that. So yeah, man, pretty excited on that note. And I also am, because I took this over in the last month, I'm rebuilding the client. It's also going to be, it's already over 50% done, but it's going to be mobile first too. So it's mobile first and desktop app and multimodal. So it's pretty cool. Yeah. So our internal, so timeline-wise, Jan 20 will be our internal target. Start testing. That's when I've scoped out to finish the kind of V1s of all the stack, which we'll have a fun little release to start sharing with everybody in February and things like that. I'm kind of more private beta, like for you and some of the other investors and things like that. And we have kind of a group now forming that is very interested in obviously doing the next stage of internal testing, but that'll be like late Feb. Then we'll be pushing into March and April to see what kind of a more public staged out beta looks like. At which point we'll start to eye potentially the next raise round funding and stuff like that. On that note, we're 871, I believe right now, so 871K. Leaves us about, we're 90K burn, about a 9.5 month runway or so right now. So that'll put us into April, May kind of time frame for stage rollout beta, it looks like, and start to gather some metrics usage, get some people, probably raise a story at that point, and do a little bit of marketing. I'll start the investor swoosh, and then we'll I think either fundraise around that time. I think ballparking something like that. Along with Ryan's Exodus 2, I've consolidated team because we're only gonna be looking at hiring either a focus contractor or unicorn, probably devs at this point going forward. But otherwise, I took over all the main dev and the tech stack and everything else. So much better shape, I think, at this point. We have 8 right now, and that's half eng, and the others are design product prototypes, which I have everybody show them how to actually use the AI to start using all these prototype engines, which is actually helping me iterate on my feedback loops already internally, which is great. Then obviously we have kind of our financial guys, law firms, stuff like that, contributing to the burn. No, that was kind of an alias holding on, until we figured out what the really kind of the rest of the brand vision and stuff like that would look like. That was just something also Ryan came up with to start talking about and start using stuff like that. I don't know if you noticed too, but like coincidentally, Blue Sky came out with their big butterfly thing. MSN has rebranded with the bigger butterfly thing. So a lot of those things, which was kind of interesting to see up, but like Butterfly itself was just an alias, and now we have this kind of going forward major, right, futuristic into space and robotics and automation and stuff like that. I actually have I'll share it later. I think it'll be more interesting. We're going to hold on to some of the architecture details to keep it private, but we have a whole space theming going on now with Nova and Stargate and Astral and Continuum. We have a Dynamo engine, which is the automation stack. It's actually a pretty fun, cool, I think, branding story that we'll be able to roll out and talk about. There really wasn't any of that for, I wasn't going to start calling stuff cocoons or something for butterflies. Oh yeah. Oh, I mean, so yeah, those are more of like for some of the devs and the hackathon and stuff like that, right? In terms of like feedback loops and helping iterate on our engine and stuff like that. So platform build out, which by the way, on that note, is named Constellation now. That'll be in the future what other devs and business and stuff like that will be able to build on, because the infrastructure platform is still a huge big part of it. But what I've done too is also put the API as first class citizen. So so the Stargate thing, which is the router thing, this is what all businesses will be able to talk to, which also is an intent router now, a universal intent router, which anyone will be able to ping like ChatGPT or OpenAI or something like that and be able to use in their own clients. Because the feedback loop is that was the biggest thing that everybody was interested in, is on the business side, on the service side, and everyone just wanted to be able to use the capabilities of what we have, right? In addition to like seeing what this looked like and being able to use this massive flagship client, because there is no good multimodal client still right now, right? And not even ChatGPT or any of these other guys kind of have something like that. But I've already rebuilt this entire interface with this because we're going to use the flagship product, hopefully make a bunch of money on it, but also to show off the actual infrastructure and platform, and then be able to leverage that, with businesses, other developers, and the people that have been reaching out since we started, right, to be able to do the whole API dev thing. So in terms of that, that's what's being built out for the Constellation for the platform side, and that'll harvest all the dev stuff. But that'll come after we launch, the private beta, the beta product, and start using, and we'll flesh out obviously the platform for everybody else. But we're going to be using it internally anyway, because it's all authenticated to be able to use that for the developers, for the services, to be able to spin up the agents. But it's all based off the agent. So the agent is more or less is going to be the Stargate router network that everyone can use. Other people will still be able to build all their own agents and stuff like that, but I'm streaming with built-in dynamic interface and audio and voice and everything is like, and obviously with the chat and stuff like that too. But this is all what Stargate's going to be able to do, which is the basically multimodal intent router, right? And so to flesh that out and make sure that's cool. And once we get into the beta, then all the business and developers, we'll get the onboarding and stuff like that for that going. But the main thing will be the Nova client, which is what everybody will be able to start using for execute DeFi, execute their messages and mail and stuff like that. Yeah. So initially, I mean, the big pop and rollout is going to be DeFi for us, especially like I think it couldn't still be better timing. In addition to none of these other even big AI companies having a big multimodal product or anything like that, which is already sweet for us, we're going to be doing it with DeFi and crypto, right? And we literally all these people now, especially Jupiter, I think has been doing great too, right? But the big thing now is aggregators. Like everybody was a yield aggregator back in the day, right? But now we have the opportunity to actually bring all of, not even just Solana together too. Now it's literally all the chains and the best of the chains, and to be able to, if it makes sense, do cross-chain stuff. But it's all going to be DeFi focused, and we're going to be able to maximize now because it's also more acceptable on the prediction markets, on the perpetuals, on everything else, right? And like basically anything you want to do with DeFi. Oh, and natively too, because of the new wallet infrastructure, you're going to be able to make wallet accounts. Your automations are going to be able to run with policy wallets accounts, right? And it's all going to be DeFi centric, but we do still have the Web2 stack where we have obviously Gmail and some initial messaging. We're going to be able to tie in our Telegram, right, automation and Telegram bots and things like that. So now we have basically what we've been talking about is this infinite universal kind of multi-way messaging between all core service providers, especially the ones that make most sense for DeFi and initially finance. But we already have the messaging structure for all this right now, right? And I can talk about some of the other things that I'm putting as part of the stack with the memory, the knowledge bases, and things like that. That the agents between the users and the personalizations and a whole learning system that's being built. We have it's an awesome event bus, an event-driven system at this point right now, but massively DeFi centric because I think it makes the most sense, right? But we do have the underlying core with all the messaging that is going to start to work and build out. But so it's still the same thing. It's still gonna be capable of doing all the same stuff, but now on this obviously much more solid infrastructure that's starting to get even more battle tested at this point, at least in development. Yeah. So we still have the drift ones in that have been in for a couple months now, but Hyperliquid, we have in there, and then Polymarket. Between perps and prediction markets. So we have those in there right now, and I believe we also, I'll have to check because I haven't gone in and tested it yet, but we're looking, there's Calci for stocks, we have some other stock stuff, and there's a couple others that are actually being integrated right now, but those are the main ones with being supply market support. Yeah, Calci. What's the other one? No, I'm not actually familiar with that one. Is that a little bit newer? No, we just got we just got some Holy Market in there, so I'll look at that one. That was the other one was Kalshi. I know we were looking at going in. Yeah, I'll look at the three. Because we're gonna have the DeFi dashboards that are essentially going to be aggregated for all the primitives, right? Across lending, borrowing, swaps, trade, perpetuals, prediction markets, and then stocks will be like your primary DeFi dashboard, and that'll be what's in Nova that you can chat with, talk to, and then dynamic streaming interface, and that's how we're going to be able to aggregate and do all the different protocols because they're all the same primitives, and then we just get to roll it up into our suite interface. We're just going to take the best of the best interfaces and make it better versions of them, and I think then we'll be set on that side. So interestingly, and we've been obviously looking at this. I don't. We haven't got the chance to actually like play with any of the privacy protocols because back a year ago they were it is what it is, but they were terrible, right? There might be something a little bit better now, but interestingly, because of the way that we have developed automations and some other things, like so I can be one person and I have 100 bots, 100 automations, 100 things like that, right? Each of them have their own wallets and wallet addresses, right? And it depends on the goal too, right? Privacy has some different connotations for like if you're just trying to mask what you as a person because somebody found an address of yours is doing, that's like different than if I have 100 bots and one of them randomly or all of them together are all going after, right, like the prediction market or whatever, then like no one's going to know who it is or what it is or whatever, right? Now, if you're trying not to be front run or, like basket or batch your transactions or something like that's different. But interestingly, we also have some batch transaction processing in the transaction engine. So was there a specific kind of reason or something you were looking at for the privacy aspect, or which kind of one of the things were you? Yeah, I mean, I've seen stuff like that starting to take shape, right? And there's not a whole lot of people yet kind of doing that. So I haven't got a chance to circle back into the extra, because that is like a business slash security slash helping people feel comfortable and stuff like that, especially big money, right? I think the average person, it's straight up UX and just being able to have access to the product. We don't have anything obviously like that implemented yet, but like the biggest and hardest stuff is, like what we're building right now. Putting in the other things, I think will be good, obviously, but we haven't explored like those specifically yet to do that. But I'd be curious of that, the people that are doing it, so that we can take a look at it. And if you are familiar with the either the business side or the strategy of what they're actually doing there, um, the implementation obviously will be easy for us. But like, I think what you just mentioned is going to be pretty big and important, and maybe more commonplace this year and starting next than probably most people think. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, no, I mean 100%. And how do you spell them, and were they funded AXAL, and how recently were they funded by A16? Oh, really? Yeah, and the biggest thing for us, I think, is just making sure that the transaction execution, the pre-flight, like the overall security, right? Like it works, the people safe about it, the intent alone, like nobody's getting it right. Like it's actually really bad. It's pretty terrible, and I haven't seen anyone doing a good job at all. So that's the biggest thing. I think the insurance will be the icing on the cake, kind of the sweet thing there. We'll also have the multi-sig quorum stuff and all that other fun stuff for anyone that wants to have fun with that, even though it's still kind of low churn on that. We do have A16 contacts, and they'll be one of the ones that, we will be definitely approaching back again this year. We talked to them in the past as well. They're definitely excited about the area. Like as you would guess, obviously, we do have some other contacts at some of the other big names as well. I would be curious, too, even on your standpoint, who else, you would consider eyeing or potentially revisiting or talking to once we get to that point, or we can talk about it later. But even just off the top of your head, if you see other bigger brand or brand names, especially we think in the U.S. obviously the big deal. A16 has been killing it. I think recently, especially for the last year or so. So they would be great. Sequoia is another big one that is kind of gotten into the space a lot more recently. There are some others, but any come to mind for you that you think would be good targets? Okay. Okay. No, that sounds good. But yeah, awesome. Any other questions or anything else that you wanted some info? Cool. All right. Awesome, Cobby. Yeah. Well, happy New Year. And excited to get. Well, so not planned yet. But my main focus. Carlos. So we had Carlos. Carlos went to Breakpoint. He was there kind of low key. He was more or less just meeting because we did get a lot of protocol integration. So he was mostly just syncing up with a lot of the protocols, things like that. I got mixed feedback on how Breakpoint went for a lot of people, but I think Breakpoint hasn't been one of the biggest like attended events for like the investors. Even this last one, I didn't see a lot of big attendance there. But still, it seems like a lot of the same people, a lot of the same devs and things like that. Obviously, Solana itself is doing really well as an ecosystem, and I don't know if you saw the Solana mobile, and now they have a secret token thing, and they're all going with that. I obviously got the latest Solana mobile and stuff like that as well, which we'll put it on there and stuff like that. But I'm just focused, especially since I took over. I'm obviously doing CTO stuff, lead tech, architect, dev, and all that stuff. So I'm just slamming focusing on that, and I do have somebody else kind of helping out just with the dailies and the turn of the business side. So I'm doing this for 14 to 18 hours a day, right? So I don't really have a schedule or care about any of the conference stuff right now until I want to get this thing into your hands and the hands of everybody else first. No, I haven't. They're still going. Oh, okay. I'm familiar with Ranger. Oh, very interesting. Pretty cool. It is pretty funny, actually, prediction market story, right? I don't know if you recall, but I brought up when we were first raising, and I went to some of the biggest names in Web3 funding that I guess I won't name just because. But we had the bet on anything product that we had made. Remember, which was bet on anything and prediction markets and everything else. Obviously we'll be doing some stuff like that with the future, but the funds that I did go to about that, and all of it was AI and agents to consensus and stuff like that base. But with my background and all the other things, I was like, this is going to be massive, it's going to be a huge part of the future. prediction market, bet on anything, but bet on anything, right? And now I've started to see stuff like that roll out, and they're like, no, that's not anything. That's not the future. Like, no one will invest in that. It's not the future. It's not proven. Poly market sucks. It's crap and blah, 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 and all this stuff. Look what happened, right? So like, have a pretty good eye, and I think insight into this, all the related industries for a long time. And I'm going to be very excited to get back to that, but we're staying a little bit far away from that, not touching it too much right now, because obviously US based company and some of the other things, but we are able to dip our toes at least in the other people prediction markets, because now we're just the relay right now. But we're going to have some fun circling back that in the future. But like you said, the branding part of it is going to be really big and important, and that's what I'm excited to pop off, I think, this year. I mean, same story for the token, right? Like, it's all going to be backing the ecosystem, stuff like that. I think there's some new developments which I didn't actually even really share at the beginning, but it is potentially going to be even more interesting, and because it's coming to the fruition, a big part of it is going to be revolving around the staking, um, and if it does work out, right? The idea would be, and I'm sure you're familiar with some of the ecosystem things, but if I can get to the point where people can put up their own Stargate routers that can horizontally scale and be distributed and be decentralized for us, then they can essentially set up their own intent nodes, right? That'll also double back on the staking aspect. Part of the platform for the developer stuff is all the staking aspect as well, right? And this goes into the entire routing, the reputation, the ranking engine, and stuff like that. So everyone is going to be incentivized to have that, in addition to like these, I guess you could say, superficial discounts on the usage-based billing, because it's still the ChatGPT kind of model where it's all going to be usage-based billing, right? But that's also through the router too. And then anyone using the API, it's all the same thing. Then obviously, in addition to like monthly usage and stuff like that, we're going to be doing the same thing all the other aggregators do with the fee model, right? And that all goes back into the token model. So still same story for that, but potentially a little bit more exciting, I think, with the Stargate model. It's just obviously it's farther out, but if we get to the point where they can do their own nodes for Stargates, I think that's going to be pretty big and massive, and nobody else really has I think, that network concept out there that's actually working like that, except for, I think, well, one of the other ones that was doing the training and the learning and stuff like that, right, around their ML and training data and stuff like that, to be able to promote other people running nodes on the network to be able to, do their token incentivization plans. They're trying to find the tokens, and they don't want to list it. Yeah, I mean, what I saw, and because likely what will happen is it's going to be, I don't know if we'll do, we haven't decided yet, and because we already went multi-chain, I don't know if we'll multi-chain launch. It probably makes more sense initially to launch on Solana, like, we'll see. But Base opened it up so that all the tokens that launch on Base now can roll up into Coinbase, right? So even that's already a segue into that. Binance is still a little different. I hope CZ and everybody's recovering from ridiculous fiasco last year, but like, I haven't touched base back with Binance and stuff like that yet. But I think around the public beta time frame, when we start to like get the marketing out there, I mean, we're going to start firing out the demo stuff once everybody's like, once it's out, once it's feeling good and stuff like that. But we're going to be circling back to all the exchanges and stuff like that to talk to all of them too. But I just don't think either way, especially with all the way things are going now, any of this is going to be a problem with any of this stuff. And now that you have Poly Market firing off and Kalshi and all these other things, everyone's just making bets on everything like we predict, right? And I think it's just going to go to town. It's going to work itself out. And no one's still going to have any of this stuff that we're building, let alone at the level it's at. So still feeling really, really good about all that. And then I don't know. I think we should probably revisit, especially if you know more about those types of things, because not everybody does, right? And figure out more of I think, a solid strategic token plan and stuff like that. Oh, really? Oh, that's awesome. No, that's great to hear. Hopefully, then we get to circle back to that conversation, and we can talk about some token stuff within the next 2 to 3 months, and then you'll be able to play with the product too. Yeah, on that note, and I know a lot of the protocols are doing multi-chain now too, but like, this is also from a long past time. I've been in the space a long time, but we did put a pancake and stuff like that too. So, um, yeah, we do have some BSC already support and stuff like that. So that'll be great actually to turn back and have some that ecosystem. Cool. All right. Well, happy New Year, Bobby, and I'll send you some hopefully cool updates here in the next 30, 45 days. Later, brother.